Okay, students, so today we are going to still talk about future tense, and we're going to talk about be going to, which sounds weird, but it's just another way to say I am going to go to the store, or I am going to buy a new car. So we learned how to make that yesterday, and today we're going to talk about how to make them negatives or questions. So we're going to review or talk about again what we learned yesterday. How to make and when to use it, meaning when to use going to. So we know that we need the person or thing we are talking about, which right here is I. You can have I, you, he, she, it, we, or they. The next thing you need is a form of be, which is am, are, is, or are. You can use any of these. They're all forms of be. The only thing is you need to make sure that this form of be matches who it is you're talking about. We can only use am with I to say I am. We can only use are with you, we, and they to say you are, we are, they are. And we can only use is when we use he, she, or it, right? We also need going to. This is probably the first part that's really important to making this sentence be future tense, is that we said going to. The next thing that we need is the simple present verb. That just means the verb that is what we use when we talk about things that are happening in the moment or right now. So we need to use, instead of leaving or left, we use leave, because leave is the simple present form of the verb leave, which is the action to like go out of a room or to drive somewhere, right? It just means to go somewhere and to not be where you are anymore. So we'll just go over some of the sentences that we learned how to make, like you are going to drive to California. This is future tense. He is going to take the bus. So you'll see that this sentence has going to, or he is going to, and then we also have is, and we have the simple present form of the verb take, which is take. It's not took or taken, it's take. We have she is going to drive her car. Future tense because we have going to, the simple present form of the verb, and we have she is, which is the present form of be, which is good. We just need the form of be. And she, which these two go together, she is. And then we have it is going to rain. We are going to come home at 9. They are going to eat at McDonald's. So we learned that we use this to talk about the future, like plans or events we have already planned. So we use this to talk about the future. So we talk about things that aren't happening in the past, not happening right now, but things that will happen after right now. So maybe tomorrow, maybe in 2 hours, maybe in a year. We can use it to talk about any of those. But when we use the phrase going to, when we say a form of be and going to, and then the simple present form of a verb, talking about something that we planned or something that is going to happen and it already was set up. Or it's already been talked about that it's going to happen. Like, it is going to rain. you can't really plan when it's going to rain, but you can look at the weather, which is what will tell you if it is going to rain, and that's why we can use it. So, to make it negative, I am not going to buy a car. Just like the regular one, the affirmative, that means yes, we have the person or the thing we're talking about, the form of be, going to, and the simple present form of the verb. The thing that we add to make it negative is the word not. Just like all the other stuff we've learned before, when we say negative, it just means no. It means that whatever we're saying is not going to happen. It's just no, instead of saying it is going to happen. So not just means no. So I am not going to buy a car is no. I am not going to buy a car. So we're going to change these into negatives. So I am going to leave at 6 a.m. tomorrow. So we know that this is future tense. We know that it's the future because we have going to and the simple present form of the verb, right? All we have to do to make it negative is put not in between the form of be, which is am here, or it could be are or is, and between going to. We put it before going to and after am or is or are. So the negative sentence says, I am not going to leave at 6 o'clock a.m. tomorrow. So we didn't change anything about this sentence except for adding not. The next sentence, you are going to need help. All we have to do is add not right here in between the form of be, which is are, and going to. That's all we got to do is put it right here. You are not going to need help. She is going to drive to work. We just add not after the form of be and before going to say she is not going to drive to work. And that's how we use the negative. So let's do some practice. My boss is going to leave for a meeting. So we want to make it negative. What do we do to make it negative? Well, we put the word not right here. My boss is not going to leave for a meeting. This room is going to be used for class. We want to make this sentence negative. So we just have to find the spot between the form of be, which is right here, and going to, which is right here, and add not. This room is not going to be used for class. That's all we got to do. You are going to take a vacation. Now, I want you to try and figure this one out. So pause it or give yourself a minute to figure out where do you put the word not to make it negative. It comes right here because we have are right here and going to right here. Are is the form of be, which not comes after, and it comes before the words going to, because this is the future tense, right? This is what's telling us it's in the future. You are not, see, we put that in, going to, see, we have going to right here and are right here, so it just comes in between them. You are not going to take a vacation. So now that we know how to make negatives, we're going to talk about how do you make questions with this? How do you make questions in the future tense? Same as all the other stuff we've learned, all you have to do is put the form of be at the beginning of the sentence, Really, really easy. All you have to do is put it right in the front to say, so this sentence says, you are going to buy a car. This is the affirmative statement. It means yes. To make it a question, to ask somebody, are you going to buy a car? All we did is you'll see that are is moved to the front of the sentence. So you is right here and are is right here. So when we make a sentence, all we do is put are in the beginning and then put you or whoever it is we're talking about next to the rest of the sentence. Super easy. So we're going to turn these into questions. The nurses are going to help us. So what we need to focus on to make it a question is the word are, right? Because that's what we need to put at the beginning of the sentence. Are the nurses going to help us? That's how we make it a question. We put are at the beginning of the sentence, before the nurses, and then we put the nurses next to the rest of the sentence, going to. You are going to stop close to State Street. So we just need to find the form of be. Where is the form of be? For this sentence, it's are, right? And to make it a question, we move it to the front of the sentence. Are you going to stop close to State Street? Now, this is a good question to use when you're on the bus. I use this a lot when I say, are you going to stop by the Union Building? Or are you going to stop at, what is it called? Let's see. Are you going to stop at Medical Station, which is the University of Utah Hospital stop. So I will use this when I'm on the bus. The plane is going to leave on time. So we need to find the form of be that is before going to and after who it is that we're talking about. So it's is right here. Is. And we just need to move that to the beginning of the sentence. Is the plane going to leave on time? And that's how we make it a question. So let's do some more practice. This sentence says, my friends are going to throw me a birthday party. So just a little thing to tell you. The word throw, you know, in English it means like to throw a ball or to throw a rock. It means that you have it in your hand and you pull your hand back and then you throw it, you let go of it. So that's what throw means. But in English, sometimes we have words that mean something else, but people use it to talk about something that doesn't really make sense if you think about what the word means. So for example, this sentence, my friends are going to throw me a birthday party. You can't throw a birthday party in your hand, but in English we use the word throw when we talk about parties, meaning they are going to do it. They're going to put it together. They are going to plan the birthday party, or they are going to plan a baby shower. So the word throw in English, when it's being used with like a event, like a birthday party or a wedding, they are going to throw me my wedding. It just means that they're going to plan it. That's all that means. So it's a little bit confusing, but that's just what it means. So all we need to do is find the form of be, which is are here, right? And we put it at the beginning of the sentence. So, are my friends going to throw me a birthday party? And that's how we turn it into a question. The doctor's office is going to call me to reschedule my appointment or appointment. Now, this one's a little bit harder to find because there's lots of words going on here. But all we need to do is break this down by finding the different parts, right? So for what we're going to do is let's find going to in the sentence. Going to is right here. So we found that one. The next thing we're going to find is who is it that we're talking about? The person, the place, or the thing, the subject. And if we look at this, we see there's the doctor's office. So the big thing that we're talking about is the doctor's office. This is what it is that we're talking about. This is who we are talking about. So even though the doctor's office is a place, it's a thing, when we say that the doctor's office is going to call, we don't mean in English that the building is going to call us. We mean that the people inside of the building are going to call us. So the doctor's office is going to call me to reschedule my appointment. So all we need to do now is find the form of be, which is are, am, or is, that is in between who it is we're talking about and going to. And that's is right here. So now that we found where that is, to make it a question with this future tense is we put it before everything. We put it at the beginning of the sentence. So now the question says, is the doctor's office going to call me to reschedule my appointment? That's all you gotta do. So you'll see that is at the beginning right here. And the doctor's office is right here. And going to is just right here. So you'll see that everything else about this sentence is the same after going to. The only thing we need to worry about switching is who it is we're talking about and the form of be. When I say the word form, it just means what does it look like, right? What shape is it? And so a form of be is are and is or am, right? Because they all mean the same thing. They mean to be. Okay, so for our next question, let me change my pen color real quick. Back to red. So we are going to need more trash bags. So we know that we is who we're talking about, and we see going to, so what we need to find is the form of be, which is are, which is right here, and we put it at the beginning of the sentence. Are we going to need more trash bags? And that makes it a question. So something else that we need to always remember when we use I am, he is, it is not, they are not, those kinds of things, is that lots of times English speakers will use contractions. And remember that contractions means words that are squished together. So I have a little reminder here for you all. I am is the same as I'm. He is the same as he's. She is the same as she's. It is the same as it's. You are is the same as you're. We are is the same as we're. They are is the same as they're. Is not is the same as isn't. Are not is the same as aren't. Now, all of these are different. These ones can be used I'm, he's, she's, it's, your, we're, and their can all be used with affirmatives and negatives. But is not and are not, isn't and aren't can only be used with negatives, because you'll see that part of this word is not. It's not is a part of this word, this contraction. So that's why we can only use these ones when we're talking about a negative. So we're going to do a quick little practice for this. So I am going to leave at 6 a.m. So we need to figure out where is it that we can put in a contraction? Where can we squish two words together? And you can put I and am together to say I'm. I'm going to leave at 6 a.m. Right? So we figured that one out. The next one, he is not going to leave at 6 a.m. So this one's kind of tricky because you'll see that he is, we can say he's, and is not is there, so we can say isn't. The only problem is you have to pick one or the other. You can't say he's isn't going to leave at 6 a.m. You can say he's not going to leave at 6 a.m. or he isn't going to leave at 6 a.m. Because you'll see that the word is a part of this contraction and this contraction. So if you said both of them, it means that you're saying he is not. You're saying is twice, and that doesn't work. We only need it once. So that's why you can say he's not going to leave at 6 a.m. or he isn't going to leave at 6 a.m. The next sentence, you are going to leave at 6 a.m. So this one doesn't have not, but it has you and are. So we can put those together to say you're going to leave at 6 a.m. And we know that in this sentence, it's you are. You are, not your dog. If you said, why, let me write this slowly so it doesn't look so bad. Y-O-U-R. If you said your, people listening can't tell the difference between your and your. They sound the same. But you'll see that the written one, this one means you are, and this one, your, means a possessive. It means that whoever you is, they own it. So if I said your bike, I mean Y-O-U-R, because it's your bike, you own it. If I said you are going to leave at 6 a.m., I'm meaning you are going to leave at 6 a.m., not you own going to leaving at 6 a.m. That doesn't work. So that's why we say when you're spelling or when you're reading, it's important to notice if it's a contraction or if it's the word your. The next sentence is we are not going to leave at 6 a.m. So we've got a negative and we've got are and we've got we. So we know that we can put them together, we and are, to say we're, or we can put are and not together to say aren't. We're not going to leave at 6 a.m. or we aren't going to leave at 6 a.m. Those are the contractions we can make. So I decided that we are going to do a little reading practice today just to kind of go over and show you why the future tense is important and how it helps you let people know when certain things happened without having to say it. You can just let them know it was in the past, it happened in the present, or it's happening in the future. So we're going to read this. I used to live with my family in Canada. I moved when I was 20 years old. Now I live in the United States. I am going to school to be a nurse. I am going to work at the hospital once I graduate. When I get my first paycheck, I am going to take my parents out to a nice dinner. So we're going to go over the different tenses that we've learned to talk about different times. So we learned that used to is past tense. I used to live with my family in Canada, but I don't anymore. right? I moved when I was 20 years old. This is past tense. Now I live, because it says I live together, and this is simple present tense, and there's nothing in between I and live, the verb. We know that that's a present tense, and we know that it's all the time, right? We know that this, when we use this kind of present tense, when we make it this way, it means that we do it all the time. So now I live all the time in the United States. I am going to school to be a nurse. So you'll notice that this sentence is set up just like the way we use the future tense. But I'm going to show you why it's different. So we have the person that we're talking about, we have the form of be, which is am, and we have going to. So this means that they're talking about the future tense, right? But the next word isn't a verb that comes after, it's school. School is a noun. If someone says, I am going to school, instead of going to meaning future tense here, this means present tense. Let me see. This part, this sentence right here, is talking about present tense. Because it says, I am going to school. Instead of using a verb in the simple present tense after going to, because it's a noun, meaning a person or a place or a thing, and not an action word, it means that the verb that is telling us what time it is, what time this is happening, is this one right here, going. And we know that ing at the end of a verb means that it's continuous, or it's a progressive verb, meaning that it's ongoing. It's happening right now and it will happen in the future. I am going to school to be a nurse. Now this next part, I wanted to show you the future tense. So we have I, we have a form of be, which is am, we have going to together right here, and the word that comes after is a verb. So because it's a verb, this makes this whole sentence future tense. I am going to work at the hospital once I graduate. So this is something that I am planning on doing. When I get my first paycheck, I am going to take, it's a verb in the simple present tense, my parents out to a nice dinner. So you'll see that this sentence with the blue isn't future tense, even though it's made very similar or the same way as these two sentences right here. And the only difference is this one, after going to, it says a noun. And when we're talking about the future tense, after going to, we need a verb, an action word, in the simple present. And that's the difference. So if you want to keep practicing and reading this on your own, that would be great. And if you have any questions, let me know.